Hello everybody, in this video I have a mixed media process to share with you with the Thompson's Craft Supply design team. I am going to be altering the covers, front and back covers of this little 8x8 scrapbook using bits from my lovely November design team kit and some stuff from my stash, a fair bit of which is from Thompson's Craft Supplies as well, just because I buy my stuff from there. So first up I need to remove the front and back covers from the coils, and then I'm also going to sort of feed the ribbon back through the holes, the ribbon ties, and just washing them to the insides of the covers just so it's completely out of my way while I do my mixed media on the other sides. So first up, obviously, I'm going to add a layer of gesso to each cover. One thing to keep in mind is sometimes stuff like gesso, acrylic paint, whatever, when you've got holes like the square holes that the coils go through, sometimes the paint can gather in there and you don't want it to dry that way because you want to be able to put it back through the coils. So I just kind of take a little pencil or something and sort of clean out the holes while the gesso is still wet, just to make sure they can be used. I wasn't worrying too much about the holes on the other side for the ribbon fastening because I can just use my cropper tile to re-punch them if needed, but the coil holes were quite important not to gunk up with gesso and stuff. To give myself a bit of a base to work with, I've cut some pieces from one of the papers from AB Studio, Carry Me Slowly. I'm going to put the bigger piece, which is about 7.5 by 7, I think, on the back piece, and then a slightly smaller piece on the front cover. Just, I don't know, having something like that is a good starting off point to sort of get rid of that horror of the blank page kind of thing. And then I'm taking Finnair liquid acrylic in deep turquoise to cover up the board where the paper's not going to cover that up. So obviously on the back cover where you get the bigger piece, it's just around the edges, and then on the front it's covering up a much bigger portion of that. Adding a little bit of Distress Oxide in tumbled glass, I think, around the edges of those papers, and then I'm going to stick them down with 3D gloss gel, making sure I've got the gel, the adhesive, right to the edge of those papers so they're not going to end up curling up or bending up or anything at the edges, because you just don't want that. It doesn't look very nice. Once those were on there, I added some clear gesso to the top of those papers because I knew I was going to put a lot of mixed media mediums on there and they needed to be able to deal with all that and the paper not to start falling apart and stuff. So that's what I'm doing there. Then a little bit of stenciling next. The stencil I use first is a Baroque stencil from Hobbylicious, which you can either get from Hobbylicious or Thompson's Craft Supplies stock them as well. With that, I'm going to use some Distress Crackle paste, which is my current favourite Crackle paste. I really love the finish it has. I really love the effect. It does, I do go through it quite quickly though, because they are kind of small pots, but it is pretty good stuff. So I'm doing the majority of my stenciling with that. And then once that stenciling was done, I'm also going to take, I think it's a Tim Holtz stencil, I can't remember the name of it, and then use Prima paper paste with that. When my stenciling was done, I left it to dry for a little while. As I have said, probably ad nauseum if you are a regular to the channel, crackle paste needs to dry sort of on its own. You can't really do it with a heat tool, then it doesn't crackle properly. I didn't leave it to dry 100% because my next stage was just adding like my chipboard and metal pieces and stuff, so it didn't have to be completely dry because I wasn't adding the colour at this stage. So I'm just going to glue on like these chipboard flourishy corner pieces. There's that lacy chipboard from Hobbylicious, that frame also from Hobbylicious, and then I needed something else for that cluster on the front cover, so I pulled out some frames from the Minte frame fussy cutting book, and I'm going to add a couple of those. And then I think once I'd cut the bigger one, I was like, well, I might as well use the smaller one as well because I need something on the back. I hadn't quite decided at this point what I was going to do with the back cover. One of the things you got to keep in mind with the back cover especially is if someone is using the scrapbook, they want to be able to work on it. So if the back cover has got loads of stuff on it, then it's going to be all wobbly and not lie flat and stuff. So it's something I always try and keep in mind. But yes, I'm just adding up the layers there, adding some Distress Oxide again, tumble glass around the edges of those frames. And then I'm going to glue everything down with my old 3D gloss gel. Where I add the gloss gel to like really intricate pieces such as that sort of lacy chipboard piece, I don't worry too much about sort of, you know, getting it in the holes and stuff, I just whap the adhesive on the back, put it down, and then there with my brush, you can see I brush away the excess adhesive that's sort of squished out from the sides. Just a much easier and quicker way to do it, rather than carefully painting on your gloss, your gel medium or whatever adhesive on each little intricate piece of wood. It's easier to just slap it on the back, slap it on the cover, and then take away the excess. So I left that to dry, I'm pretty sure overnight, so everything was completely dry, completely on there. Oh, I'm going to put a little metal embellishment on the back to go in the centre of that frame. Oh, and I forgot about my wings as well. I felt like the front cover needed something extra, so I pulled out these AB Studio chipboard wings. I thought those little butterfly, dragonfly ones looked quite cute with that, and stuck those on as well. So as I said, I left that overnight to dry to make sure everything was completely, you know, solid and dry and good. And then I'm going to cover everything with a layer of heavy gesso to prep it for adding all of the colour. One thing I always keep in mind at this stage is to make sure you add gesso to like around the edges of the chipboard as well, so that like from any angle the whole project looks complete and finished and everything. You're not just getting random little ugly bits of chipboard colour poking out from all your hard work of colouring and stuff. So just something to keep in mind. I think some people forget that sometimes. And I have a thing about things looking complete and finished. I don't know, I don't like little ugly bits of unfinished things poking out. Anyway, that was a bit rambly, sorry. So to colour, I'm going to start off. This is Dina Wakley Gloss Spray in Mineral. I'm taking my paintbrush to add this, being delicate in some areas and not so delicate in other areas. The reason I am using paintbrush with my gloss spray, I do it again in a couple of minutes, is that when you spray the Dina Wakley Gloss Spray, it's a very, I don't know how to explain, like, it's like a mist, almost. It doesn't spray directly, it just kind of sprays everywhere, which is not ideal for this kind of project. You can see where I'm spraying here with some Lindy's Starburst spray. I'm spraying it really close up so I have some control over where the colour goes. You can't really do that with the gloss spray because, as I said, it kind of just sprays everywhere, so that's why I use the brush. I do spray it with other projects, it's just it didn't work right for this particular one. That Lindy's spray, by the way, is the colour Delphinium Turquoise, and I'm just, as you see, spraying it and letting some colour move around, some drips move around and stuff. I dry between every colour layer, so when I did the mineral, I dried that, and then I'm going to dry the Lindy's layer. Then the Lindy's is a gorgeous colour and I love it, and it really like covered all the things that I wanted covering, but it's very shimmery and very shimmery, really, yeah. And it was just the whole thing was just looking way too like sparkly in your face. So I took some Dilution spray in, I think it's Periwinkle, just to kind of tone down that shimmer a little bit, and it also added a little bit of a darker element to the blue, gives it a bit more, just a bit more depth, colour depth and stuff. Again, just letting that drip and move around the stenciling and stuff. Dried that off, and then I'm doing the same thing with the brush and gloss spray, and this is the colour Night. Midnight, I think it's just Night. Again, adding a few darker elements here and there. Then when that colour had been painted on and then dried, I'm going to start playing with my waxes. I've got Prima wax, Finnabair wax, sorry, I'm just looking at my list here. Finnabair wax Old Denim. And I'm kind of using that. You can see certain areas where the sprays and stuff haven't quite covered up all of the white of the stenciling, so I'm really dry brushing that wax on certain areas, so you're not going to see the white of the stenciling, but it's not going to be, I don't know, too heavy a colour, if that makes sense. You can see where I'm just adding it there, like really lightly. It highlights the stenciling, it takes away the whiteness of the stenciling, but it's not colouring the background either at the same time. But I'm also going to add heavier layers of that wax as well. Oh, and I added some Nouveau embellishment mousse in the same way. That is in the colour Old Navy, just because it was a little bit darker, just to add some more depth and stuff. But again, I didn't want to overdo it with the embellishment mousse because it is shimmery, and shimmery wasn't the main thing I was going for here. And then to add my metallic finish, I'm going to go with the Finnabair wax in Aged Brass. I was going to go gold, and then I thought that would be a bit too bright. And I love this Aged Brass colour. It's gorgeous. It's more of just like a really dark, dirty gold, and I love it so much. So I'm adding that kind of all over the place. I really, really like that. and adding it as well, especially to those like flourishy corners, and adding it to like where the coils are going to go through the covers and stuff around the edges, makes it look more aged, gives you that slight sort of patina effect. So I'm just going all over with that, and I'll probably bring it back at some point as well. So my original plan was to have some sort of figure between the wings on the front cover, like maybe one of the Tim Holtz paper dolls or something, but I thought once I'd added that colour and stuff, it just wouldn't look right to add like a grayscale picture of someone. Just it wouldn't look right, so I decided to go with more wings and flowers. Those vellum wings are again AB Studio, and then the flowers are just a mix of some from one of the Thompson's craft like little flower grab bag bundle things, and some are from my own stash as well. And I'm kind of, obviously I've got the largest ones in the center, and then making it flow out in a diagonal shape, decided to add some of these slightly lighter ones to have a little more colour interest, and yeah, just having it flowing out in that diagonal way. I just think that looks a bit nicer than shoving 3 or 4 flowers right slap bang in the centre. Like, it looks a bit more purposeful when you do something like that. For the back, I needed something to go in the middle of that metal embellishment, so I grabbed just one of these little epoxy round stickers, like to make fake flair. And then I had a flower fussy cut from the Carry Me Slowly papers, so I just stuck that on the back of that and stuck it onto that metal embellishment. So it's kind of, you've got the same thing of like a blue flowers on the front and a blue flower on the back, but it's much more simple and also flat and easier to use. And then I've brought back the aged brass wax to dry brush all over those flowers, just to tie them all in with the whole cover, you know, so it all works together. They, without anything adding to them, it just looked wrong and they looked out of place. So adding this to the flowers just really, really helps the whole thing flow, if you will. And I'm also making sure, because the flowers all have different coloured centres as well, so I'm putting a lot of effort into adding the wax to those centres to make sure all of those match. And then just going over and finding any little white bits or anything just that looks out of place and covering it with the wax, and also going around all of the edges with that as well. After that, the next stage was to reattach the covers to the coils, to the front and back. I will admit it took me a hot minute to figure it out. It's just one of those things that you kind of stare at it for ages and then you finally go, ah, I get it now. Just, you know, sometimes your brain is going, I don't understand how to do this, and then you have your little aha moment. So that happened. I cut it out, don't worry about it. I was aboard the struggle bus as well on this back edge as well. I think because I had a little ouchie on my finger, then that pulling the coils out of the way was almost impossible. So yeah, it took me a while. And then once you put those covers on, you kind of want to squish the coils back in place, and they're nice and tight again, and the cover's not going to fall off. And then I'm just kind of brushing away some little excessy bits that are on the pages. I don't think I needed to re-punch the holes after all that, but I'm just using a little pokey tool to rethread the ribbon through the holes. Sadly, the washi that I had stuck down the ribbon with did sort of take off a little bit of the inside cover with it, so I think I'm gonna just cover those inside covers just with like a piece of scrapbook paper or something, just something pretty, just cover it up. And obviously you can see I've got some splashes and stuff on the inside that have made their way from the front cover to the inside. So yeah, I'll probably cover those up at another day. And then I am just finishing off with some Nuvo drops in, these are the Jewel drops in Sea Breeze. They dry translucent, and I was just adding those to help with the whole diagonal flow of those flowers, just to make it really obvious kind of that's what's going on. Just adds like a nice little pretty extra. And with that, my little scrapbook cover is finished. Thank you so much as always for watching. Links will be in the description box to products used, as well as Thompson's craft supplies links and blog post and all that sort of stuff. Please leave me a thumbs up if you enjoyed. Chat to me down in the comments. And yep, that's it. I'm gonna go. Thank you so much again. Bye bye.